Welcome to another mailbag session. Remember, these are questions and comments you guys leave on the channel. But before we get going on this session, remember, normal parish notices apply. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? Hit the subscribe icon. If you want to be notified when new content hits the channel, it's the bell icon's the one you need. If you like the contents of this video, give it a thumbs up. Consider becoming a member of the TMTG community. It's always a big mouthful. The address is down the bottom, as are the Facebook and Instagram tags. Go tag me over there. But now back to the video. Next one from Psychologic in response to a recent video on the SY85 Part 5 restoration when I replaced the disk drive. He or she writes, "Hello, I really appreciate your videos. They are very informative and packed with knowledge." Well, thank you very much. Do you happen to have the original floppy drive for your SY85? If so, will you sell it? I need the parts for a donor floppy drive. And I have to say, one of the biggest things I found about doing the SY85 restoration and putting all the videos on YouTube was the number of people that have very fond memories of the SY85, which I was quite surprised about, if I'm honest. But it probably does explain why not many good examples of an SY85 actually come up, because you guys hang on to them. And a lot of people have sort of got in touch and said, I saw your video, I've got an SY85, it doesn't work, but your video has inspired me to go and do this and get it back up and running, which is really good. I'm really pleased about that, because that was kind of why I did the video series in the first place, apart from the fact I love tinkering with keyboards. So unfortunately, this is a couple of weeks old. As I said, I've responded directly to the YouTuber, but it's a couple of weeks old. But unfortunately, I have sold. In fact, I actually didn't sell. Sorry, that's the wrong thing to say. I didn't sell it. I actually threw it away. The old disk drive, on several pieces, several reasons. Number one, it was knackered. Even though I put a new belt on it, it was still knackered. And the second thing is, I just looked at it and thought, I can buy a new drive for. I think my new drive cost me about $40, and then it cost me about $30 to get it shipped from the US. So all in all, it cost me $80, which is about 60 something pounds. And I looked at that and thought, for time, effort, and pure aggravation, it was better to go and buy a new one, where the guy had done all the fettling about with it before I got it. So he put the zip ribbon connector on it and made all the pin adjustments for me. I didn't have to touch it. It was great, just plug and play. So unfortunately, Psychologic, I threw it away, so I can't help you out. But of course, look for the next project, and there are several in the offing here. And the next one comes from Renderman Pro. In response to the Behringer RD8 firmware update I did in February 2020. I thought the boot up and go. I'll start that again. I thought boot up and go was the option. Nope. On Windows, you need to install some third-party driver. That was weird. There is an instruction for the Windows stuff on Sweetwater, and there's a link to the Sweetwater article, which I will put down below. And yes, the Behringer RD8 is actually generally plug and go. So if you've got a reasonably modern computer, a 7, a Windows 7, a Windows 10, Mac OS, I don't know, probably the last 4 or 5 versions of it, you basically plug the RD8 into it, and the machine sees what it needs to do to work with it. It's what we call class compliant, which is a USB standard. Unfortunately, a lot of other gear is not class compliant, which is why you have to download drivers. So the problem is that when you put the RD8 into boot mode to do a firmware update, it completely loses its class compliance. And what you need is a piece of software on a Windows machine, not on a Mac, but on a Windows machine. You need a piece of software to bridge the gap between the bootloader, which is the software to do the update, and the unit itself. But on a Mac, you don't need that piece of software, so there's an architectural difference between the two platforms. I suppose at the end of the day, it's the way a Mac kernel is written against the Windows kernel. But then, having said that, the Mac kernel is a lot cleaner in terms of the way Windows works to the way a Mac works. But that's a completely different subject and a very, very long video. And the next one comes from Sean Curran. Hi, Sean. In response to not selling my A80. Yes, that woman was very, very persistent. Good battery, Roland sound library, and 80s Akai samplers video I did in June 2020. And he writes, merchandising, that's where all the real money for the samplers are. Akai, you could have the Akai t-shirt, the Akai colouring book, the Akai lunchbox, the Akai breakfast cereals, and the Akai flamethrower. I know about the Akai flamethrower. I didn't know about the Akai breakfast cereal. But seriously, are you seriously telling me that you don't have a Roland TR808 t-shirt or a DX7 t-shirt? Now, you guys know I do because you see me wear them. I do actually have them. Yes, I bought into the marketing. What was really interesting about this time, and actually it's still kind of relevant now really, is that the manufacturers will do anything they can do to get the money off the musicians. Now, I thought an 808 t-shirt was cool, and I thought a DX7 t-shirt was cool, which is why I bought them. Many years, I might add, after those platforms were actually released. But if you think about certain things, if you think about this thing here, right? So I will give you a really good. I've just washed my knee on the stand. But if manufacturers made a fortune out of the musicians who bought their equipment. So this thing here, right, brand new, this thing cost $8,000. Right? Yeah, I'll say that again. This thing, brand new, cost $8,000, and yet you still had to go and buy the CDs for it. You still had to go and buy the pedals for it, and this thing can take a range of pedals in the back of this thing, okay? You still had to go and buy the ADAT interface, and there's another interface which I've actually upgraded in here. You had to buy more memory for it because you needed to upgrade it from what it was sold with. So there was a bunch of stuff that you needed to do to make this a proper functioning workstation, right? I think the ADAT interface for this was about $2,000. So, if you were doing ADAT work and you wanted to plug this thing directly into an ADAT interface, it wasn't $8,000, it was $10,000. That's a hell of a lot of money, just to pay out. You've just paid out $8,000 on the keyboard, and then you've got to pay out another chunk of cash to actually make it function properly. Now, I refer to Project Music. So I've mentioned Project Music many, many times on the channel. They don't exist anymore, so I'm quite safe doing this. But Project Music was a shop, and they held lots of disk libraries. So a lot of the sort of Roland disk libraries that I'm now kind of collecting and putting into the disk library. These guys back in the day, they held these things, and it was a used to go down there and you could pick sounds out of the disk library that you wanted. And I didn't really have very much Roland gear at that point in time. My friends had W30s, and I think one of my friends actually had one of these things, which is, if you can just see it, this thing sitting here, which is the S50. And we used to go into Project Music, and they used to sell the Roland library discs for X amount per disc, which was considerably cheaper than the £30 or £40 that Roland would sell in the disc for. So back in the day, you could probably buy a disc for about £5, and I think they used to sell it to you for whatever it was. Definitely profiteering. But if you then actually think about the discs themselves, the media probably cost Roland, I don't know, let's say the disc and the case for the disc and the labelling probably cost Roland about £1, maybe £2 if I'm really sort of being generous. They were selling this stuff for £30 to £40 a pop. So even at the base price, the they were making £28 profit for selling you discs of sounds. Think about how much a pedal costs to manufacture and how much you buy a pedal for.